shit. You thought that lady was me, right? Yeah, no. Okay, my name is Athi Joja from South Africa. What I'm going to do today, I think, with all the previous two speakers really just made me unable to stand here because of their energy and their ability to just talk and all that information just coming out like that. So I'm a bit nervous, you see. Okay, so what I've done is I've just fucked up Creative Times program so I'm gonna change whatever that I planned. So, okay. I was supposed to talk about my collective, Googlective, but I did that in Venice, so I don't think it's important to do it again. If people are interested in that conversation or in that presentation, I think they can go online or get that discussion there. So what I'm going to do now is just browse through. These are some of the images that I presented in Venice. I'm going to talk more about Roads Must Fall, the current movements in South Africa, and it's nice things like that, you see. So before I even start talking, let me play something. These are the kind of things we're doing back home. Things like fire,
Now, why are you holding a bundle sport for your departments while our parents are suffering in the sun, 9 to 5 jobs? My father died last year in October. LA drip stands. It's under your jurisdiction. He died in a shack, and he waited there for 8 hours dead in the same house that we live in. Why are you having fun while we have things like that in this country? I live in LA drip stands. You are complaining about the size of a toilet. I work with the bucket system. Do not touch me, please. Every day, my parents have to walk outside and rain and have the sun scorching their necks to get to a bloody toilet. What is that? We have one tap for 50 houses in this city, in your city. Why are we living on a wetland that is under nature reserve in the LA drip stands in your city? Please explain that to me. This 11% is personal to me. If my mom loses her job in January...
I just want to read something. I didn't prepare. I just prepared my notes. So I'm just going to read quickly so that you get a sense of what's going on there. And yeah, I like the quote at the back. South Africa has been burning for a couple of weeks now, non-stop. Students have reconvened once again after effective struggles of the Roads Must Fall movement under a new inviting banner which became Fees Must Fall movement. After 21 years of racialized social neglect by the ruling party, the ANC, students like those of the defiant 1970s have decided to confront the legacy of colonialism and white supremacy in South Africa. As a way of rethinking their predicament, they turn to the revolutionary thoughts of Steve Biko, Frantz Fanon, Chris Hani, Thomas Sankara, Audre Lorde, and to yours, Black Lives Matter, for inspiration and as well as understanding the historical mission for black liberation. Crafting their movement under the all-encompassing program of decolonization, the students began to question the falsely consented normalization of colonial legacy as collective heritage that arrogantly dominates the public arena as a symbolic reminder of white supremacy. Colonialists like Cecil John Rhodes, whose statue sat at the foot of Table Mountain at the University of Cape Town, looking down at his conquered land and things. A man who bestowed unto himself the gift of owning African countries and bodies as by dispossession and murder was target number one. Interestingly, this figure who embodies white plunder became the former freedom fighter Nelson Mandela's best friend, or should I say his surrogate master, through a project famously called the Rhodes Mandela Foundation. This point proves how the magnanimity of Mandela and his Rainbow Nation and his reconciliation without justice paradoxically needed to be scaffolded by political compromises at the expense of the black majority. Now, where's the other brother who talked about Mandela and this? On our side, his name does not even come close to social justice. Yeah. Anyway, but I don't want to be that dude, as he said. So students confronted this legacy, which, by way of illustrating the undisturbed persistence of the colonial and white supremacist project, radically demanded the statue to be removed. Well, as an ironic step, just to show how deep this shit runs, recently, I noticed one of the black graduate students at Rhodes University in Grahamstown with a Nelson Mandela Rhodes Scholarship tattooed on his right arm. On his right arm. That's really fucked up. So the removal of the statue was a brave move and a gain for a sporadically organized movement. Today, Fees Must Fall, an offshoot of the Rhodes Must Fall, continues to demand that university must bear the traits of an African university by way of curricula, symbolism, black staffing, etc., on the one side, and the other, free education. Once again, the demand reverberated across the country, and the students simultaneously and rightfully rendered universities inoperative. By way of exhibiting black collective and systematic suffering, these protests didn't end at universities. They mutated to demands such as food prices must fall, and of course, under the current water crisis in South Africa, prayer gave way to interesting requests like rain must fall. But after endless negotiations for a 0% increment in fees, university principals not only denied their culpability, but also sent the police force at students. At Wits University, where the Fees Must Fall protests began, common practice of taking refuge in minor issues so as to influence a different trajectory was glaring. Rallied behind the mantra that valorized suspension of ideological and political differences, the ruling party student bodies consistently labored to deviate the protests from exposing the systematicity of state neglect. But that didn't succeed. However, leftist and liberal academics alike also lauded this temporary distance from politics. A revolution was imaginable, but there were no enemies, just shared victimhood. It's absurd. Anyway, here we are dealing with knowledge production. We are dealing precisely with knowledge production. Like the ANC's compromise, it seems like there was a correlation between political gains, such as deterring fee increment and greater project of managing black rage at all costs. That is, political programs, their rhetorical assumptions were structured by a certain acquiescence to prevailing demands that steered away from the rupture with white supremacy. I mean, demands already imaginable within the confines of the political framework and within the purview of whiteness. It is here that knowledge production as a performative gesture meets black existence. In the fog, as Frank B. Wilderson might put it. The prevailing critique of our situation, often led and influenced by white radicals and academics, is articulated through a choreographed rhetoric of particular epistemological frames in which white demands are reconciled, recycled, reordered, and hosted to fit the black agenda. Knowledge, as Foucault has noted, is not an innocent production. And as Marx argues, the ideas of the ruling class are the dominating ideas. In South Africa, a colony, the ANC is an appendage of the white colonial master roasting his body in the beachfront. So by forcing unprincipled unity and capitulating to easy victories, the space of the so-called commons in civil society, black rage has to appeal and assume some human status, what Fanon would call hallucinatory whitening, which inevitably purges its demands into the abstract generality of the system where the parasitic existence of the ruling elite bolsters and secures white people's interest and supremacy. This is colonial knowledge proper. In the corridors of such discursive and political communities, black demands live incongruous to political common sense of shared desire for normality. The problem is not outside of, issues of free education, curricula, representation, police brutality, state corruption, etc. But the fact that civil societies can function, I mean, when I say so, I mean white people, can function self-reflectively outside of black civil death. That is, both the black elite and white people can't gain their symbolic coherence, intellectual astuteness, and social relevance without black death. According to one of your own again, the best, George Jackson, black death is being born in a premature death, a menial subsisting wage worker, odd job man, the cleaner, the court, the man under the hatches, without bail. That's me, the colonial victim. Anyone who can pass the civil service examination today can kill me tomorrow. He says again, anyone who passed the civil service examination yesterday can kill me today without any impunity. So you're familiar with that shit, right? So knowledge production along the prevailing paradigm from the right and to the left, is deeply linked by the libidinal need for black pain on the one side and its ability to appropriate its speech on the other. Just one sentence, comrades, one sentence. Essentially, black rage is in the demand to spring clean the world and its grammar. Black rage, it is essentially black rage is in a demand to spring clean the word and its grammar, but to end it indefinitely. Thank you.
Wow. Black pain, black rage, black death. One of the things that struck me from what we're hearing about the current protests was this idea, and you brought up a little bit of that, about how it spilled outside the universities and was really looking at the cleaners, the janitors, other people's livelihoods, ability to live, even if they don't have a university education. And then, you talked about, I took a quick note, now I can't find it, the rain must fall, the other things that are in process. I'm curious about that idea of the ripple effect of this kind of public explosion within the universities, but then this sense that it's rippling out to a larger conversation within South African society. And if you could.
Yeah. Well, during the Black Consciousness era, there was something a slogan that was popularized by the students at the time, which is to say, you are black before you are a student. And that became a fashionable slogan that moved into others. You are black before you are an art critic. You are black before you are whatever. So, and as Fanon would say, we are over-determined from without. So, for example, in Johannesburg or in South Africa, to the idea of narrowly positioning or situating the students' protest as merely an issue of just students or just an issue at the university. That is a bullshit story, because basically these students are excluded, marginalized, precisely because they are black. So it is that experience of blackness, which makes the issue at the level of university not just a university issue, but an issue that affects black people in all parts of areas, because we are, the living dead in our own country. You see, we are the living dead. So it is in that sense that the signifier of blackness as a marker of exclusivity, of Wilderson calls incognito, so it is that kind of thing that is able to unite black people. Why is he standing?
Alas. and we only have a few seconds, but just even rippling out further from that and thinking about the bounce back between in the civil rights era of the independence movement in Africa and the civil rights era here, and then coming now to this and thinking about what's happening in South Africa, but what's happening at Mizzou, what's happening at Ithaca College, what's happening at Yale. Is that something that is of interest or noticed, or that sense, again, of this ripple effect outside South Africa to a larger kind of context about race within the context of power structures like education structures and universities?
You know, like what is going on in South Africa, I was so glad, to see students not only Skyping with students here, but also Skyping with comrades in Burkina Faso. Remember the nice explosion there, beautiful burning parliament, things like that. So, there were all these kind of exchanges that happened. And of course, they are old. They date back long time ago. And it is also precisely the issue of black people being suffer a situation where their humanity is questioned, not just in South Africa, but throughout here. You people get shot in the streets, it's shit like that. Yes. So it's just
and now we're going to.
Okay, I'm just going to leave it there, sorry. Time is over. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.